So Knotch, the company that I co-founded, is about capturing emotion online. The way to think about it is, in real life, when we communicate, only 7% of our communication is words. 93% of our communication is everything around the words. So facial expression, tone, body language, and so on. When we move to the digital world, though, even when we text, that 93% is completely lost. And so what we're trying to do is recapture as much of the 93% as we can in a really engaging tool that we've built and that we've wrapped around a bunch of products that I'll talk about today. But before that, I wanted to tell you about what I just started, which is that I have a big passion for data analysis. And what that means is that I am very opinionated about the things that are being said today about big data. And so one of the reasons why I decided to start Knotch was because I didn't believe that big data was necessarily good data. And all these companies starting around big data weren't necessarily companies that would eventually get anywhere. And the reason why I thought that is because, especially in the land of sentiment analysis, the highest accuracy standard that has been commercially achieved in terms of figuring out what, for example, how the Twitter network feels about Obama today is around 60% for a binary variable, which is really only 10% better than a random guess. And that data is basically at the core of how content and ads are targeted towards us. And so I just thought that there must be a better alternative, that we can gather a better data set around people's intentions and sentiment online, and that maybe the way to gather that is by building an engaging consumer product that would allow people to opt in into giving that data. So going a bit back, I was born and raised in Transylvania, came to Stanford, and then when I was a senior at Stanford as an economics major and sort of focusing especially on data analysis, my options were pretty clear. I was either going to go into banking or consulting. It wasn't really much of a choice because as an international student, you really don't get any other type of visa. There's no such thing as an entrepreneur visa, FYI, in spite of the fact that everyone's talking about it in the press. And so I really didn't have a chance. And eventually I accepted a job as a consultant, and about 2 weeks after, I reneged on my job because I couldn't sleep at night thinking, did I come halfway across the globe to study computer science, to go on another track? I knew that I wanted to start my own thing, and so I went to the only place where I was certain I could learn a lot about what I wanted to do next, which was Sand Hill Road. And so for about a year, I represented this big fund called Skolkovo. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a really large Russian fund that is both private and public, and it tends to fund later stage companies that are more research focused. And so I helped open their Sand Hill office, and through that I learned a ton. I met all the right people, and I started to think like a VC and understand what VCs were looking for in prospective entrepreneurs. And so after about a year, I was taking a shower one day, and the idea of Knotch just hit me. Seriously, it just happens sometimes like that. And I realized that I needed to go pursue it. That, and also I couldn't sleep at night, so I didn't really have a choice. So I went out to find a co-founder, and after about 15 unsuccessful meetings with Stanford alumni, I eventually found my amazing co-founder, Steph, who at the time was a data engineer at a large company here called Adabar, based in Mountain View, a financial company started by the founders of Palantir. And so I pitched to her this idea of mine. I said, look, Steph, there's no way to really source accurate sentiment data today. And also, in terms of a consumer product, there's no way for people to really express how they feel about interests and build an identity around those interests, and then maybe even connect based on those interests. Why don't we try to build it? And we had absolutely no idea what we were doing, but 2 weeks later we quit our jobs and started Knotch. So to tell you a bit about Knotch, we started it off as a company, a research company. So for about 6 months, we tested with every single way that you could imagine to give sentiment online, from 5 stars to emoticons to thumbs up, thumbs down, polling, structured sentence input, everything you've seen out there that you have used to review movies or products or any type of content. And we tried to launch them as mini consumer products to see if they would stick, to see if people would enjoy using them for their own sake. And every single one of them failed, one after the other. And so at the time that our last experiment failed, kind of 6 months into the company, we had lost all hope, and we were part of the Stanford incubator called StartX. And somehow one of us realized that in order to be successful at making people express how they feel, we needed to do one thing well, to not make people think about how they feel. That's really the difficult part, right? The cognitive cost. How we feel is really complex. It comes from a very gut-driven place. It's a very left side of the brain type of thing. And the fact that we constantly make ourselves think about it makes it difficult to understand what the left side of the brain is really doing. And so we realized that the solution was to keep people in the left side of the brain. And so we came up with the idea of colors, because colors are very much left side of the brain. And ever since ancient Egyptians, we have used colors to color code emotion, with red being the color that makes you feel alive and attracted to something, which is why all dictators in history have used red as their campaign color, by the way. And blue being the color that soothes us or depresses us, like I'm feeling blue, right? So we came up with this paradigm of color coding emotion, a thermal color coder that enables you to say either I love it in red colors, gradations of red, or I hate it in blue colors. And everyone in the Stanford incubator at the time thought we were completely either idiotic or insane because everyone else there was working on self-driving cars and other such wonderful things. And we said, no, we need to give it a try and see how it works as a consumer product. And so I pushed it out in April of last year as an iOS app, and ever since it's grown tremendously, and we have insane content creation, and it seems to be the thing that really unlocks human emotion in our users. So on Thursday, actually, you'll be able to download Knotch 2.0. It's going to be featured in the App Store. And the basic idea of Knotch 2.0 is not only to enable people to express emotion and make that super easy, but also enable them to create meaningful connections with each other around profiles that capture their interests and how they feel about those interests. I think another way to think about Knotch as an iOS product is to think about it as the precursor to the social graph. So, you know, on Facebook you meet with your friends and you connect with your friends. On Twitter you tune in to famous people and what they have to say. On LinkedIn you connect with your professional connections. But there's no engine for friends. There's no place to make friends. And Knotch is exactly that, especially for our user base. So about 2.5 months ago, as we were still working on Knotch 2.0, we said, we realized that the colors actually work, at least in our consumer products. So is there another way we can use them? Is there another medium place online that could use this idea of very quick, fast expression of sentiment? And the first answer we came up with was publishers, because commenting sucks, right? I mean, we all know that at the end of every article there's a commenting section, but usually the people who go through the trouble of going down there and start talking are the people we don't really necessarily want to engage with in a conversation. And on top of that, only 0 to 1% of all readers convert to commentators. And so for a publisher, it's very difficult to, one, understand their audience, and two, monetize on it. So capture meaningful insights, especially data insights around their audience. And so what we came up with was a quick, fun, low cognitive cost way for the publisher to engage their audience around content. So if you go to Forbes or to The Guardian now, you will see on a bunch of articles that you can actually express how you feel about gun control or Lady Gaga or P. Diddy or Obamacare in color. And the only thing you do is you hover your mouse over and it expands into reds on the right and into blues on the left. You click, and the second you click, it tells you where you stand. So it says you, and 29% of people feel extremely positive about gun control, and then you can share that personalized infographic to your social media. So we started testing this with Salon.com and Mercury News, and frankly, I didn't even know if it was going to work. So I'll give you an example with The Guardian. So with The Guardian, what we did, do you know Lollapalooza? Who here knows Lollapalooza? The festival, music festival? Okay, cool. It's a big music festival. It's really awesome. So we were wondering how people felt about the Lollapalooza lineup, which included Eminem, which was kind of weird. And so the author of the article decided to include the Knotch widget to capture reactions. So here's what happened. And The Guardian actually really thought that we had insane bugs and that this was not really possible. But 100% of the readers who saw the widget actually played with it, which means they hovered over for more than 2 seconds. 40% of the readers converted to data points, which means they clicked on it. And over 5,000 notches were made for an article that had 100 comments. And so to us, this is really proving color. It's proving that, it makes sense to enable people to not think about how they feel. And the second you unlock that within them, they're just going to keep telling you how they feel because they feel good about telling you how they feel because everyone wants their opinion to matter, right? So just to wrap up real quick, I couldn't thank our supporters enough. As I said, Stanford University was actually one of our first investors together with the staff from Stardex and Greylock and Alan and Company and Lightspeed, but in particular Michael Birch, who's the founder of Bebo. He led our latest round and was one of the very few people who looked at me and when I told him about colors didn't think I was completely insane. So I absolutely appreciate the fact that he supported us and that he helped us get here. And then here's my team. That's my co-founder. And to tell you something real funny, whenever my co-founder and I go to events, people ask us if we're working on a bra company or a beauty company or any sort of woman company. And when we tell them it's a data company, it's the weirdest thing to them. So we're happy to be women in tech, women co-founders working on a data company and crushing it. And then our team is all men, which I think is really funny. And it has since expanded. We've added 2 other gentlemen, but they're all international. Yep, except for Sean. Sean's from Miami, but everyone else is international. So we also pride ourselves in hiring a lot of amazing international talent. That's it. Thank you very much.